Every night now, Guitar was seeing little scraps of Sunday dresses, white and purple, powder blue, pink and white, lace and voile, velvet and silk, satin, Ayala and grosgrain. The scraps stayed with him all night, and he remembered Magdalene, called Lena, and Corinthians bending in the wind to catch the heart red pieces of velvet that had floated under the gaze of Mr. Robert Smith. Only Guitar scraps were different. The bits of Sunday dresses that he saw did not fly. They hung in the air quietly like the whole notes in the last measure of an Easter hymn. 4 little colored girls had been blown out of church, and his mission was to approximate as best as he could a similar death, 4 little white girls some Sunday, since he was a Sunday man. He couldn't do it with a piece of wire or a switchblade. For this he needed explosives or guns or hand grenades, and that would take money. He knew that the assignments of the days would more and more be the killing of white people in groups, since more and more Negroes are being killed in groups.
Do you want to read both of these pages?
Yeah, I can. The single solitary death was going rapidly out of fashion, and the days might as well prepare themselves for it. So when Milkman came to him with a proposal to steal and share a cache of gold, Guitar smiled. Gold? You could hardly believe it. Gold. Nobody got gold, Milkman. Pilot does. It's against the law to have gold. That's why she got it. She can't use it, and she can't report it's being stolen since she wasn't supposed to have it in the first place. How do we get rid of it? Get greenbacks for it. Leave that to my father. He knows bank people who know other bank people. They'll give him legal tender for it. Legal tender, Guitar laughed softly. How much legal tender will it bring? That's what we have to find out. What's the split? 3 ways? Your papa know that? Not yet. He thinks it's 2 ways. When are you gonna tell him? Afterwards? Will he go for it? How can he not go for it? When do we get it? Whenever we want to. Guitar spread his palm. My man. Milkman slapped his hand. Legal tender. Legal tender. I love it. Sounds like a virgin bride. Guitar rubbed the back of his neck and lifted his face to the sun in a gesture of expansiveness and luxury. Now we have to come up with something. A way to get it, said Milkman. Be a breeze. A cool, cool breeze. Guitar continued, smiling at the sun, his eyes closed, as though to ready himself for the gold by trying out a little bit of the sun's. A breeze. Now that Guitar was completely enthusiastic, Milkman's own excitement was blunted. Something perverse made him not want to hand the whole score to his friend on a platter. There should be some difficulty, some complication in this adventure. We just walk over there and snatch it off the wall, right? And if Pilot or Reba says anything, we just knock them out of the way. That's what you have in mind? He summoned as much irony as he could into his voice. Defeatism. That's what you got. Defeatism. Common sense is what I got. Come on, old dude. Your papa give you a good thing, and you want to fight it. I'm not fighting. I just want to get out alive, and breathing so what I snatch does me some good. I don't want to have to give it to a brain surgeon to pull an ice pick out of the back of my head. Can't no ice pick get through the back of your head. Can't get through my heart. What you doing with the heart anyway? Pumping blood, and I'd like to keep on pumping it. Okay, we got us a problem. A little bitty problem. How can 2 big men get a 50-pound sack out of a house with 3 women in it? Women who altogether don't weigh 300 pounds. We have to wait to pull a trigger. What trigger? Nobody in that house got a gun. You don't know what Hagar's got. Look, Milk, she's been trying to kill you for almost a year. It's everything she could get her hands on, and never once did she use a gun. So maybe she's thinking, wait till next month. Next month she'll be too late, won't she? Guitar leaned his head over to the side and smiled at Milkman. An engaging, boyish smile. Milkman hadn't seen him this relaxed and cordial in a long, long time.
He wondered if that's why he had let him in on it. Obviously, he could pull it off alone, but maybe he wanted to see Guitar warm and joking again. His face open and smiling, instead of with that grim reaper look. They met again on Sunday on Route 6, away from the colored part of town, a road consisting of used cars lots, Dairy Queens, and White Castle hamburger places. It was empty of shoppers that morning, nothing but the occasional sound of automobiles braking the graveyard, since of the cars in the lots lined up like tombstones. Since the last conversation, the important one in which Guitar explained his work, not the brief chancy talks they've had afterward, Milkman wished he had the nerve to ask Guitar the question that was bothering him. Has he? He could hardly phrase the question in his own mind, and certainly could never say it out loud. Guitar had impressed him with the seriousness and the dread of the work of the days and the danger. You can smell that?
No. But it's gonna hit me later.
It's like sushi and like
Wait, like soy sauce.
yes. He had said that the days never even talked about the details among themselves. So Milkman was sure any inquiry from him would only make Guitar stalled again and cold. But the question was there. Has he done it? Has he really killed somebody? Like the old man on the... Oh my god. Now he bought the morning and evening papers. Once every 2 weeks he read the paper and read nervously, looking for reports of murders that appeared suspicious, pointless. When he found one, he followed the news stories until a suspect was found. Then he had to see if there was any black people murdered by someone other than their own. Did you do it? He was like a teenage girl wondering about virginity of her friend. The friend who has a look, a manner newly minted, different, separate, focused somehow. Did you do it yet? Do you know something both exotic and ordinary that I have not felt? Do you now know what it's like to risk your one and only self? How did it feel? Were you afraid? Did it change you? And if I do it, will it change me too? Maybe he could ask him one day, but not this day, when it was much like the old times, taking risks together the way they did when Milkman was 12 and Guitar was a teenager, and they swaggered, hunched, leaned, straddled, ran over town trying to pick fights for at least one, scare somebody. Other boys, girls, dogs, pigeons, and old women, school principals, drunks, ice cream vendors, and horses of junkyard men. When they succeeded, they rode the wind and covered their mouths to aggravate their laughter. And when they didn't, when somebody out insulted them or ignored them or sent them running, they wisecracked and name-called until the sweat of embarrassment evaporated from the palms of their hands. Now they were men, and the terror they needed to provoke in others, if for no other reason than to feel it themselves, was rare but not lighter. Dominion won by fear and secured by fear was still sweeter than any could be got another way, except for women, whom they liked to win, which charmed but keep with indifference. It was like that again now, and Milkman didn't want to lose it. There was something else too. Guitar had placed himself willingly and eagerly in the life cause that would always provide him with proximity to knife-cold terror. Milkman knew his own needs were milder, for he could thrive in the presence of someone who inspired fear. His father, Pilot Guitar, he gravitated toward each one, envious of their fearlessness now. Even haggard in spite of the fact that she was no longer a threat, but a fool who wanted not her death so much as his attention. Guitar could still create the sense of danger and life lived in the cutting edge, so Milkman had brought him into the scene only partially for his help, mostly because his escapade cried out for a cutting edge to the lard-like quality. With Guitar as his co-correspondent, Milkman could look forward to both fun and fear. They sauntered on down Route 6, stopping frequently to examine the cars, gesticulating, bantering each other the best way to bulldogerize the shack that, as Guitar said, I didn't have a door or window with a lock. Why did it take me so long to...
That's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's got people. Milkman insisted. 3, all crazy. Woman. Crazy woman. Woman. You're forgetting Guitar. How Pilot got the gold in the first place. She waited in a cave with the dead man for 3 days to haul it out. And that was when she was 12. If she did at 12 to get it, what do you think she'll do now when she's almost 70 to keep it? We don't have to be rough. Cunning is all we need to be. Okay, tell me how you're gonna cunning them out of the house.
Do you smell that?
Like I do, but like
turn your head back.
no, like I smell it. Like I smell it, but like it's not like entirely too appetizing. Do you want sushi?
No.
Like
You're acting like you can get it to me.
Well, let's see now. Guitar stopped. Yeah, it's hitting. That just gave him like a wave. Guitar stopped to scratch his back on a telephone pole. He closed his eyes in either the ecstasy of relief or the rigors of concentration. Milkman stared off into the sky for inspiration. And while glancing toward the rooftop of the used car places, he saw a white peacock poised on the roof of a long, low building that served as headquarters for Nelson Buick. He was about to accept the presence of the bird as one of those waking dreams he was subject to whenever indecisiveness.
I told you.
Yeah. Oh, okay, wait, where was I? Indecisiveness. Indecisiveness was confronted with reality. When Guitar opened his eyes and said, "God damn, where'd that come from?" Milkman was relieved. Must have come from the zoo. That raggedy-ass zoo? Ain't nothing in there but 2 tired monkeys and some snakes. Well, where then? Beats me. Look, she's flying down. Milkman felt again his unrestrained joy at anything that could fly. Some jive flying, but look at her strut. He. That's a he.
There was only one
I got confused. That's a he. The male is the only one that got a tail full of jewelry. Son of a bitch, look at that. The peacock opened its tail wide. Let's catch it. Come on, Milk. And Guitar started to run toward the fence. What for? Asked Milkman, running behind him. What are we gonna do if we catch him? Eat him, Guitar shouted. He swung easily over the double pipes that bordered the lot and began to circle the bird at a distance, holding his head a little to the side to fool the peacock, which was striding around a power blue Buick. It closed its tail and let the tips trail in the gravel. The 2 men stood still, watching. How come it can't fly no better than a chicken? Milkman asked. Too much tail. All that jewelry weighs it down. Like vanity. Can't nobody fly with all that shit. Wanna fly, you gotta give it the shit that weighs you down. The peacock jumped onto the hood of the Buick and once more spread its tail, sending the flashy Buick into oblivion. Guitar laughed softly. White. Milkman laughed too, and they watched a while more before leaving.
That is not funny.
I wasn't laughing at that. I wasn't laughing at that. Milkman laughed too when they watched a while more before leaving the used cars in the pure white packet.
No, he said packet. Girl, what?
Sorry, I'm like panicking.
The funniest part is it said peacock.
Yeah, I know. Peacock. But the bird had set them up. But the bird had set them up. Instead of continuing the argument about how they could cop, they began to fantasize about what the gold could buy when it became legal tender. Oh my god. Guitar, eschewing his recent asceticism, allowed himself the pleasure of waking up his old dreams. What he would buy for his grandmother and her brother, Uncle Billy. The one would come up from Florida to help raise them all after his father died. The marker, sorry. The marker he could buy for his father's grave, pink with lilies carved on it, then stuff for his brother and sisters and his sister's children. Milkman fantasized too, but not for the stationary things Guitar strived. Milkman wanted boats, cars, airplanes, and the command of a large crew. He would be whimsical, generous, mysterious with his money, but all the time he was laughing and going on about what he would do and how he planned to live. He was aware of a falseness in his voice. He wanted the money desperately, he believed. But other than making tracks out of the city, far away from not Dr. Street and Sonny's shop and Mary's place in Hagar, he could not visualize a life that much different from the one he had.
New people, new places, command. That was what he wanted in his life. And he couldn't get deep into Guitar's talk of elegant clothes for himself and his brother, sumptuous meals for Uncle Billy, and week-long card games in which the stakes would be yard and a half and then a deuce and a quarter. He screamed and shouted, "Woo!" and at guitar's list. But because his life was not unpleasant, Eden had a certain amount of luxury in addition to its comfort. He felt off center. He just wanted to beat a path away from his parents' past, which was also their present, and which was threatening to become his present as well. He hated the acridness in his mother and father's relationship, the conviction of righteousness they each held on with both hands, and his effort to ignore it, they transcended it. Seemed to work only when he spent his days looking for whatever was lighthearted and without grave consequences. He avoided commitment and strong feelings and shied away from decisions. He wanted to know as little as possible, to feel only enough to get through the day amicably, and to be interested enough to warrant the curiosity of other people, but not their all-consuming devotion. Hagar had given him this last and more drama than he ever could want. He'd always believed his childhood was sterile, but the knowledge of making it Ruth had given him wrapped his memory of it in septic sheets, heavy with the odor of illness, misery, and unforgiving hearts. His rebellions, minor as they were, had been in the company of or shared with guitar, and his latest Jack and the Beanstalk bid for freedom, even though he had been handed to him by his father, a sign almost stood some chance to success. He had half expected his friend to laugh at him, to refuse with some biting comment that would remind Milkman that Guitar was a mystery man now, a man with blood-deep responsibilities. But when he watched Guitar's face as he described what could be had almost for asking, he knew right away that he had guessed wrong. Maybe the professional assassin had had enough or had changed his mind. Had he? Did you? As he listened to him go over each detail of meals, clothes, tombstones, he wondered if Guitar simply could not resist the lure of something he had never had, money. Guitar smiled at the sun and talked lovingly of televisions and brass beds and week-long card games, but his mind was on the wonders of TNT. By the time they'd exhausted their imaginative spending, it was almost noon, and they were back on the edge of the south side. They picked up where they left off in the discussion of the scheme. Guitar was ready now. Milkman was still cautious, too cautious for Guitar. I don't understand you. You come running after me with a dynamite proposition, and for 3 days we talk about it. The best news I've ever had since Pussy. But when we get down to the business, and you come up with some shit about how I can't be done, you sucking me or what? Shucking me or what? What would I be shucking you for? I didn't have to tell you about it. I don't know. I don't even know why you're doing it. You know about me. You can guess why I'm in it, but money ain't never been what you needed or couldn't get. Milkman ignored the reference to why Guitar was in it and said as calmly as he could, I need it to get away. I told you, man, I got to get you out of here. Be on my own. On your own, with $1 million wallet, you call that on your own? Fuck you. What difference does it make why I want it? Because I'm not sure you do want it. At least not bad enough to go ahead and cop? I just want it right. No hassles, no, burglary is a serious crime. I don't want to end up in, what burglary? This ain't no burglary. This is Pilot. So? They're your people. They're still people, and people scream. What's the worst? What's the worst thing that can happen? We bust in, right?
Suppose all three of them are there. They're women. What can they do? Whip us? Whip us? Maybe. Come on, who? Hagar? Right up in your face, she blows it. Pilot? She loves you, boy. She wouldn't touch you. You believe that? Yeah, I believe it. Look. You got qualms? Tell me about them. Because you related? Your daddy's more related than you are, and it's his idea. It's not that. Then what? They're crazy, Guitar. Nobody knows what they'll do. They don't even know. I know they're crazy. And anybody live like they do, selling 50-cent wine and peeing in a bucket with $1 million hanging over their nappy heads has to be. You scared of craziness? If you are, you're crazy. I don't want to be caught, that's all. I don't want to do time. I don't want to plan it, so neither one happens. How come that's too much to ask, to plan? It don't look like planning, looks like stalling. It is planning. Planning how to get them out of the house, how to get us in the house, how to cut that sack off the ceiling, and then get back out of the house and on down the regular street. On down the street. And it's hard to plan with them. They're not regular. They don't have regular habits. And then they're the wine heads. One of them liable to drop at any old time. They're not clock people, Guitar. I don't believe Pilot knows how to tell time except by the sun. They sleep at night. Anybody sleep can wake up. Anybody woke up can be knocked down. I don't want to knock anybody down. I want them gone when we hit. And what's going to make them leave? Milkman shook his head. An earthquake, maybe? Then let's make an earthquake. How? Set the house on fire. Put a skunk in there. A bear. Something. Anything. Be serious, man. I'm trying, baby. I'm trying. Don't they go nowhere? All together? All together? Milkman shrugged. Funerals. They go to funerals and circuses. Oh, man. We have to wait for somebody to die? Or for Ringling Brothers to come to town? I'm trying to figure it out is all. At the moment, we don't have a chance. Well, if the man don't have a chance, then he has to take a chance. Be reasonable. Reasonable? You can't get no pot of gold being reasonable? Can't nobody get no pot of gold being reasonable? You have to be unreasonable. How come you don't know that? Listen to me. I just quit listening. You listen. You got a life? Live it. Live this motherfucking life. Live it. Milkman's eyes opened wide. He tried hard not to swallow, but the clarion call in a Guitar's voice filled his mouth with salt. The same salt that lay in the bottom of the sea and in the sweat of a horse's neck. A taste so powerful and necessary that stallions galloped miles and days for it. It was new. It was delicious. And it was his own. All that tentativeness, doubt, and inauthenticity that plagued him slithered away without a trace, a sound. Now he knew what his hesitation had been all about. It was not to give an unnatural complexity to a simple job, nor was it to keep Guitar on hold. He had simply not believed in it before. When his father I was waiting for it to hit 15.
Why?
Because, I could take up time.
Okay, we have 2.5 more pages left.
I guess so. I don't know. I'm being, cautious.
Oh my god, you're actually mental.
It's really not that.
Just go.
When his father told him that long story, it really seemed like Jack and the Beanstalk, some fairy tale myth.
Jack.
He hadn't believed it was really there or really cold or that he could really have it just for the taking.
It was too simple. The Guitar believed it. Gave it a crisp, concreteness. And what's more, made it into an act, an important, real, and darling thing to do. He felt self inside himself. He felt a self inside himself. Emerged a clean line, definite self. A self that could join the chorus at Railroad Tommy's with more than laughter. He could tell this. The only other real confrontation he'd had was hitting his father. But that wasn't the kind of story that stirred the glitter up in the eyes of the old men in Tommy's. Milkman didn't think through any of this clearly. He only tasted the salt and heard the hunter's horn in Guitar's voice. Tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow night. What time? 1:30. I'll pick you up. Beautiful. Far down the road, a long way from Milkman and Guitar, the peacock spread its tail. On autumn nights, in some parts of the city, the wind from the lake brings a sweetish smell to shore, an odor like crystallized ginger or sweet iced tea with a dark clove floating in it. There was no explanation for the smell either, since the lake on September 19th, 1963, was so full of mill, refused, and the chemical wastes of plastic manufacture that the hair of the willows that stood near the shore were thin and pale. Can it still hear me?
I don't know. No, I don't think so, because it's using your microphone, I think. Hello. Wait, oh, that doesn't that was clinical as fuck. She's calling again. No, it's not.
No, she's
She
not.
was. I literally not even kidding. Infections?
Wait, where is it?
So you were September from
September
plastics
19
manufacturers?
from plastic manufacturer that the hair of the willow stood near the shore and was thin and pale. Car floated belly up into the beach, and the doctors at Mercy knew, but did not announce that ear infections were a certainty for those who swam in those waters. Swam.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Swam.
What?
Did you hear like a phone call too?
What?
Let me just not. Yet there was this heavy, spice-sweet smell that made you think of the east and strip tent and the sha-sha-sha of the leg bracelets. The people who lived near the lake hadn't noticed the smell for a long time now, because when air conditioners came, they shut their windows off and slept a light surface sleep under the motor's drone. So the ginger sugar blew unnoticed through the streets, around the trees, over roofs, until thinned out and weakened and little, they reached outside. There, where some houses didn't even have screens, let alone air conditioners, the windows were thrown wide open to whatever the night had to offer. And the ginger smell was sharp enough to distort dreams and make the sleeper believe that things he hungered for were right at hand. To the Southside residents who were awake on such nights, it gave all of their thoughts an activity and quality of being both intimate and far away. The two men standing near the pines on Darling Street, right near the brown house where the wine drinkers went, could smell the air. But they didn't think of the ginger. Each thought it was the way freedom smelled, or justice, or luxury, or vengeance. Breathing the air that could have come straight from Marketplace in Accra, they stood for what seemed to them a very long time. One leaned against a tree, his foot hovering off the ground. Finally, one touched the elbow of the other, and they both moved toward an open window. With no trouble at all, they entered. Although they had stood deliberately in the dark of the pine trees, they were unprepared for the deeper darkness that met them in that room. Neither had seen that kind of blackness, not even behind their own eyelids, more unsettling than the darkness. However, it was the fact that in contrast to the heat outside, the slumbering, ginger-laden heat that had people wiping sweat from their necks full, it was as cold as ice in Pilot's house. Suddenly, the moon came out and shone like a flashlight right into the room. They both saw it at the same time. It hung heavy, hung green like the green of Easter eggs, left too long in the dye. And like Easter, it promised everything: the risen sun and the heart's lone desire, complete power, total freedom, and perfect justice. Guitar knelt down before it and wove his fingers together into a footstep. Milkman hoisted himself up, one hand on Guitar's head, and shifted himself until the last one sat on Guitar's shoulders. Slowly, Guitar stood up. Milkman fell upward along the sack until he found its neck. He thought the rope would have to be cut, but he was annoyed to find the sack hung by a wire instead.
He hoped the knife would be enough, because they hadn't figured on wire, and had brought neither pincers nor a wire cutter. The sound of the grating knife filled the room. No one, he thought, could sleep through that. At last, some few strands broke, and it was only a moment before the entire blackness was severed. They figured on the weight of the sack being enough to tumble them the minute it was cut free, and planned that at a whispered signal, Guitar would bend his knees and sink down so Milkman's feet would hit the floor almost immediately. But there was no need for this graceful footwork. The bag was much lighter than they had anticipated, and Milkman made it down quite easily. As soon as they both regained balance, there was a huge airy sigh that each one believed was made by the other. Milkman handed his knife to Guitar, who closed it and tucked it in his back pocket. There was a deep sigh again, an even more piercing chill. Holding the sack by its neck and its bottom, Milkman followed Guitar to the window. Once Guitar had cleared the sill, he reached back to help Milkman over. The moonlight was playing tricks on him, for he thought he saw the figure of a man standing right behind his friend. Enveloped by the heat they'd left a few minutes earlier, they'd walked swiftly away from the house and onto the road. At another open window on the same side of the house, the one next to the sink where Hagar washed her hair and where Reba put pintos to soak, a woman's face appeared. What the devil they want that for, she wondered. Then she picked it at the windowsill until she had a splinter of wood and put it in her mouth.